We also talked about different ways that a product can gain review expeditiously. And this case was based on a real case. The product was called ERISA. The drug company was not a little company, it was AstraZeneca. They got so excited by their phase 1 results that they expanded into phase 2 and to a wider indication. And then when they got even more excited and expanded their indication in their phase 3 study, the product failed, or rather, it showed that it did not prolong life. So, what happened to ERISA? Well, it alleviated the condition of the cancer, which was pancreatic cancer, so remarkably, even though it did not extend the lives of the patients, that the patients clamored for access to this drug. There was an advisory committee meeting, which FDA often uses not just to get background or second opinions from thought leaders, but they also use it to get some cover. If they're going to approve something, they want to be able to say that it wasn't just us, other outsiders agreed or even urged us to approve it. And it was a combination of things for ERISA. People talked about whether they could approve the drug on the phase 2 trial instead, and just kind of ignore the phase 3 failure of the expanded indication. And it was FDA, it was Bob Temple, who's still there, who announced that we could have approved this if they had submitted it at the end of phase 2. So if we set aside the disappointing results in phase 3, we could have approved it then. So we can go ahead and approve it now. And the company didn't seem to realize this, or maybe they just sat tight and let FDA say it on their behalf. But FDA did approve ERISA, and it was required to undergo additional studies in what we call phase 4 after the approval. Now, this was before the current law that gives FDA advanced authority to withdraw approval of products approved based on phase 2 data. But after the drug was approved and used more widely, the sponsor discovered that one of the commonalities where the drug worked was in people of Asian descent. So where is that drug now? The approval was modified very much. It's approved in Japan because it works very well on Japanese with pancreatic cancer, and it's available in the United States, labeled for people of Asian descent. So the approval has gone up and down and back and forth, but this is a real case based on a real company that made this terrible mistake that delayed its approval and delayed the information available on how the drug worked, just because they didn't plan their clinical trials very well. So it happens, and I hope that as a regulatory compliance person, you can cite this case for an example of how you can add value by advising on how to get these products approved. One of the things my colleagues say often is, when we're in a hurry, that means we have to slow down. And corporate officials don't like to hear that very much, but it was awfully true in this case. If they had slowed down, they would have been approved faster. At the end of phase 2, they wouldn't even have had the expensive phase 3. So that's something you'll keep in mind. So that was last week. This week, we're going to talk about recalls and import alerts. Now, import alerts have become an increasingly effective tool for FDA because so many components and APIs and device components are made abroad. So in that sense, FDA doesn't need to go to court to get a seizure. They can just put a product and a company on the import alert list and bang, they don't get any of their product that they need to manufacture. So one of the disadvantages to outsourcing your suppliers, especially to have a single source supplier in a country that has a culture of noncompliance, is that FDA can yank your production and bring it to a screeching halt. So we're going to talk about import alerts and recalls. So some of the violations that we're talking about, we've also covered in previous units. So when you talk about import alerts and recalls, if you're basing it on a violation that we've talked about in the past, please feel free to consider this a chance to refresh your memory and your classmates' memories and say what the violation is and whether it constitutes a recall or an import alert. Now, there are rules for recalls especially, and there are policies for import alert. So you will be able to have an FDA reference for these, either in the Regulatory Procedures Manual or a guidance or a program or a regulation. So be sure to look for that and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.